Hello. So this video is starting making a teapot with slabs. This is similar to what you might see in the videos that I put on canvas for the I Ching potters. I am not going to be able to do it as well as they do because they're masters at the craft of those type of teapots. So I'm going to keep it simple, which is probably maybe a little bit more relatable. See me do it as opposed to them, for those of you guys. And you may never have done this before, so I'll start with the basics. So it'll be a very basic first step of the process, which is to make the slab and connect it to the base, and then we'll stop there for today. So Navajo wheel clay, which you may have gotten a bag of. Your bag might look like something like that. So at home, you don't have a slab roller. You might have a rolling pin, which I'll show you can use, but you can do it without any of those things. Take your clay out of your bag. A good way to do that is to turn it upside down and pull the bag out, and then make sure you turn your bag right side in so it doesn't dry out. This clay is pretty wet. We'll see. It's a pretty flat bottom of that block of clay. I'm going to turn it onto my board and just kind of put it down there like this a couple times to really flatten it. So if you have a flat surface, you can do that. If not, make do. And then if I use my wire, I can actually start the slab by cutting it with the wire. So I'm going to hold this wire like dental floss. It's similar to like cutting the bottom on a wheel thrown piece. And then I'm going to hold it here and just try to cut a thick slab by eye. And so I'm going to pull it through. I'm gliding on the table surface. Pull it through. All right, and so now I have a thick slab, and I can now put this back in the bag. I don't need this. Make sure you find something to work on that's not too sticky. Old piece of plywood is good. You can use canvas if you have that around, but I prefer just on some kind of dry board. Drywall works good if you have a piece of that. Even cardboard, you can just work on cardboard. That's a good one at home if you don't have some kind of specific ceramic board to work on. So here's a slab, and it's thicker than I want it to be, so I just cut it with the wire to start with. One way to thin out the slab is to drop it on the surface like this, and it stretches it. Making a pizza. So you can continue to do this and pick it up in different directions, and the slab will get thinner and larger as you go. So that's one way to go. If you have a rolling pin, there's no reason why you can't roll it like you would some kind of dough. But when you roll, make sure you don't overdo it. I'm doing really light pressure because if you dig in, you'll get a ridge, and all kinds of problems can be created. Now, depending on how slick your surface is, you want to make sure that you lift it up from time to time. You can even flip it over and see if there's any wrinkles or problems over here. How thick should my slab be? I'm going to try to go a little bit thinner than a quarter, maybe than I did on the pinch pots, if you saw that, because I'm going to pinch those a little thinner the next step. But once you create your slab, that's kind of the thickness of your wall for this teapot. So I'll show you in a minute when I cut through it. I'm going to work on this. Okay, so I did that a few times. The slab's looking pretty good. But what if I don't have this? Then what do? You can slap it out like I was and do your best. You can also take a tool that you have in your kit, like this one, and you can glide it on the surface. And you can compress the clay, and you can kind of create a slab through compression. So it's squeezing out, it's kind of stretching this way. It leaves a lot of marks, which could be interesting textural marks. Or you can work to get rid of those marks by going in different directions. And you can see I'm kind of digging some clay off as well as stretching it. This is maybe not the easiest way, but it does make a strong slab because it compresses it And if you don't have those other tools like a slab roller or a rolling pin, I can even turn it and use the flat side. This works best with soft clay like I have out of the Navajo wheel. So yeah, this is working okay. This is a little bit thick right here, so I'm gonna, if you really want a precise slab and you do have a rolling pin, if you found some sticks, I don't have them handy right here, but if you found a couple of sticks that were the same, you can lay those down and you can roll it over the sticks. That's one way to get it even. If you have things like that at home, you can use 2 rulers or something. So there's lots of ways to do it. Those are a few. I'm going to flip this over. And the other way is with your hand, you can really pat on it. If you watch those I Ching potters, they use a paddle, and they don't roll their slabs at all. They pat with a wooden paddle. You can use your hand as your paddle, and that might leave some hand marks, and that's fine with me. So this slab has been cut, stretched, rolled, ribbed, and patted down. So lots of ways to do it. And the thickness is about yay thick, which is about a little less than 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch. No, I'm sorry, 1/4 of an inch, 2/8. Okay, so I have a slab. How am I going to turn it into a teapot? So one helpful thing is to have something round. So I use a ball jar ring. And so if you don't have the wheel, like I mentioned in my first video, if you saw that, I'm trying to do things without having any type of wheel, because you probably have that situation at home. So I'm just going to put this down and make a circular mark on my slab. And then I'm going to see if I have enough slab here for the wall itself as well. And so if I put a little marker on my ring with a dab of clay, I can use it as a roller, and we can see how far. So I'm at that. Wow. So the length of this is exactly the length of the ring that I needed. So it's about 3.14 pi, right? The times the diameter of this ring. So I cannot use this one slab for both my ring and my wall. I just don't have enough. So let's make another one real quick for the bottom, and I'll use this sides. So I just grabbed a chunk this time because it's going to be a small one, and I'm going to whack it in my hands, and I'll show you yet another way, which is similar to the pinch pot. I'm going to pinch with my hand here and create a pancake. So there's nothing fancy about this. You can do 2 hands like this, and so this is a good start. This will be much bigger than I need it to be, but I'm going to utilize some of that for another purpose. How thick should the floor of your vessel be? Well, just shoot for the same thickness as your wall. So patting it down. Let's do the stretch it out here like this. Use my rib. Give that some compression. Okay, so I have this on my board, it's not stuck. I have my ring. That's going to fit there like that. So I'm going to use a tool and I'm going to cut off a little bit of the extra, but not all the way up to the ring. I'm going to leave my bottom extra big. So this, I'm going to fold, roll in my hands, fold it, roll in my hands. This will be a coil that I can use to attach the wall to the floor. So, squeeze. So this is a little bit of hand building as well. You just create like a hot dog of clay, put it on a flat surface, stretch your fingers out as you roll, and you can create a thinner coil. I know I have enough clay because I cut it out of that big ring out there. It's going to be way more than enough. The chair is squeaking. Okay, and now I'm going to roll this. Now if this clay was not super soft, I would set this on a damp sponge or under plastic. But this clay actually is so soft, I'm just going to set it right there. Now I have this ring here, and I have my slab of clay ready for the wall. I don't need that ring on here. It was a test run, so I'm going to erase that with my fingers. All right. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to push this down to really make a ring. So what if you don't have one of these things around, right? Go find any kind of jar, peanut butter jar or something that's been washed out, and just turn that upside down and use the top. So pick a size that you want to be for the round base of your teapot if you're going round. I mean, this is just one way to do it, right? Your teapot doesn't have to be round. It can be square. But this is a good hand building lesson. Without a wheel, you can still go round. Okay, so I have my coil. I have some water here. You guys can't see it right there. I'm going to dip my finger in water and just put a little bit of water onto the ring that I had compressed there. And then I'm going to take my coil and I'm going to squish it down on the inside of that ring. Okay, when I get to the end here, let that overlap right there, and then use a knife. My needle tool and my knife here, and you want to cut through both. It's a technique you'll see the I Ching potters use too on their walls. I noticed that. It's a great technique. So now that lines up just like that. So I have a little ring. So why am I putting this ring on here? So when I put the wall on top of this base, there's extra clay for the corner. So I put the clay on first. This is how I do it. I don't think they did it this way. I'm not sure exactly. I can't remember. And so this is just one way to do it. But I can push this down now. There was that little bit of water I put on there, so it really sticks. You don't need to score it at all. You don't need to scratch it when the clay's soft on both sides. Often you don't even need water, but a tiny bit of water can help stick in a situation like this. All right, and so tiny wet finger, I can get in here and smooth out the inside. Try to avoid a lot of water, because it's going to make a mess and get your clay even softer. But a tiny bit sometimes is helpful. All right, so I have a little ring of clay that's been compressed down onto the flat slab. Make sure you guys can see that. So it looks like that. All right, so now I have my slab with my finger marks on it. And if I roll this around there, let's just double check. I said that this was the right dimension. Yeah, just it. And so I need to cut a straight line there at the bottom. And then however tall I want my teapot to be, that's how wide of a strip that I would cut. So you just need any kind of stick for a ruler. And I'll come down here and I'm going to run this like so. Now if I want to make sure that my top and bottom are even, right, I can maybe just use my stick and roll it like that. I'll do 2 sticks thick. 2 sticks wide. That's what I'm going for. All right, so these could be useful. All right, so what I'm not going to do is cut the ends. I just cut the ends of the wall. I'm cutting the top and bottom of the wall, and then that's going to go on there. This is the tricky part. We'll see how this goes. I'm going to take this slab of clay and I'm going to put it right on the outside of that ring. Cool. And it just lines up for me. Looks like a can of soup. So there's my seam. Clay's very soft. You could let it firm up a little bit and do this, but not too much, because you want it to be able to wrap around without cracking. So here, I'm going to leave it there, as you guys can see, and my knife again. And this is what I just did to that coil, but hopefully you can see it even a little better here. So the wall is overlapping just a little bit. And if I run this knife through both sides, and I'm running it at just a little bit of an angle. Now I'm going to pull off this piece here, and on the inside, do the same. Pull that off. Now I'm going to take 1 finger of water and put it onto the seam, 1 finger, and then put that seam and it lines up because it's the same cut. And I just kind of place it there first. Now I want to use as much pressure as I can without distorting it too much. So I'm being gentle, and I have a finger on the inside, and now with my finger I can blend that seam. Okay, and now I can use a tool here, clean it up just a little bit, but I'm not going for perfection because I have a lot of opportunity to clean this up later. Don't overdo it now. Now the inside would be good to compress with a tool like this. I'm going to take my hand, reinforce out here, and take a tool on the inside, and I'm going up the inside seam, and actually across the inside seam as well. Okay. Now I have that coil of clay on the inside. Let me see if I can show you guys. This isn't going anywhere. I don't know if you can see in there, but there's a coil of clay that I placed in earlier. And that's helping with the corner in there. So, I already lost my tools here. What do I do with this one? I can go in there and blend in the corner, but I'm reinforcing it with my hand out here. If you want to make this a little easier, don't do it as tall as I have. So while the clay is nice and soft as it is, you can blend in But the reality is that you can clean up later. Don't try to do too much when the clay is real soft. So I blended in the inside corner with the stick. Now I can shape it a bit. The I Ching potters use that banding wheel, and they spin the wheel and they do this. I'm trying to do it without a wheel so I can show you guys that I may make a more organic teapot form. But the clay is flexible enough. There's my seam, so I can pay attention to that. I'm going to bring it to me and blend it one more time. If your seam is opening up, try to blend it back in together. And then we're not going to get too much further on this because it's so soft. And I'll revisit this teapot on the next video to start doing the next things. And I'll show you how to get that seam even better after it's firmed up a little bit. Okay, so this would be cleanup time for me to go in the inside corner with my tool and really make sure I don't have any real rough areas, but it worked out pretty good. And I could also think about my finished idea as I'm making this, because I was just going to keep it real simple. I was thinking of pushing this belly out a little bit like those I Ching, but I kind of like the idea that I'm getting a kind of a taller one. And I can play around with the fact that the clay is so soft right now. I'm going to give this more of an organic feel, like I have with my shape starting to appear, where there's a bulge out here. Maybe I can put the spout over there, and I can push this forward a bit and go for some asymmetry. So I'm going to end up putting the handle over here, so I'm making a space for it. So it's almost got that Walt Disney dancing teapot feel to it, which can be taken pretty far sometimes, but I think a little bit of that gesture is nice in teapots. And so it's no longer like a can of soup, it's more like a dancing can of soup. Okay, so what's the deal with all this, right? That I leave until I'm sure that I have this bottom secured to the wall. And then now I'll remove it. So I like to do it this way as opposed to cutting the exact size of the thing and putting it in. I see lots more problems that way. But this clay is so soft, I can use a wooden tool to cut away the excess. So I'm just holding it at a bit of an angle to spin my board here, or I can walk around my piece either way. Don't need a banding wheel for this. This will actually help compress it a little bit. Hey, mine will be like a little miniature coffee pot, an espresso pot or something in the end. Okay, so I can clean up that bottom edge. And I'm going to show you the top and the lid and all of that, and the spout and the handle on the next video, next time. This is a good start for the first day, and you want to let this firm up. Now, if you're not going to get to it till another day, don't leave it out uncovered. It'll be too firm in most situations. So maybe leave it out for an hour and then check it and wrap it with some plastic. And I'll get back to this and you'll see me get back to it. So one more finger wipe around. That's a decent start. I'll get back to this later. Okay,